What's going on, crew? Oh, that was a poorly timed drink of water. I hope you're doing fantastic. Today we're talking about diabetes, math, and the dentist. I actually just got back. I hope my teeth look all right. Thankfully, I don't have to worry about food in my teeth because they cleaned them out for me. But I'm excited to chat with you guys today. So drop a one real quick in the comments if you can hear me, making sure the audio is working. I'll double check on my end for the visual, and we'll jump into our topic looking at how the heck do you stay stable with blood sugars if you're going to a place where you can't drink juice or eat snacks if you go low, like the dentist. And that used to be a big fear of mine. Oh, we got a one already. I love it. All right. So today with that conversation, I'm going to share with you guys a few secret tips that have changed my life. See, for a long time, the dentist used to make me nervous. And it was not for the standard reasons that I hear everybody else talking about with pain and terror associated with the dentist. That was never a conversation that entered my head. No, for me, the dentist made me nervous for years because I was worried about going low while at the dentist and then not being able to drink juice because, they're cleaning your teeth and you're supposed to brush your teeth before you go to the dentist. Then you got to eat while you're there. It's like, what do I do? So for me, that was a fear that I had. And I don't think actually there was one time years ago when I did actually have to have a juice halfway through my dental appointment. But thankfully, not really a thing that happens very often. And I didn't have to worry about it today. So today I went to the dentist and had some interesting conversations, one of which was asking the dentist, what do us diabetics have to worry about or be aware of with our dental hygiene? I'll get to that towards the end. I think that's an important note to make as well. But before we get to that, I want to check in, make sure we got everybody else here. So I would love, because we keep adding new people into the group every single week, I would love to know where everyone's tuning in from. So if real quick, you could just drop in the city or the state that you're tuning in from in the comments. I would love to know. I am in San Diego, California. We just moved back here. I grew up here, but my wife and I have been bouncing around for a while, and we're back. We're back, baby, after a long time traveling around. Had to get our daughter close to her grandparents. So we got Phoenix in the chat with Bill. Love it. So I'll check on that periodically. But with the story today, diabetes math. I told you guys I'm going to talk about that. So we're going to get to that first. Diabetes math is this huge new realm of study that I've been obsessing with recently. And we got one from Chicago. I love it. It's not showing me who the name. Oh, there we go. I hope I don't pronounce this wrong. Chaoib. I'm so sorry. I bet that's wrong. I grew up with Van de Vecht as my last name. Proper pronunciation is Van de Vecht, which nobody got right. So I'm right there with you. But anyways, diabetes math, this whole new Scheib. Okay, I was way off. Thank you for correcting me. It's this whole new topic, right? Diabetes math, where over the years of studying blood sugars and metabolism and digestion and exercise and all these different pieces to the diabetes puzzle, realize that diabetes is just one giant math equation. That's it. Like, that's all you have to know. But the math equation itself gets a bit complicated, right? And that's what makes it tricky. See, the beginner math that we were all taught or should have been taught recent years or when first diagnosed is the insulin to carb ratio, and realizing that we're all in these basal and bolus ratios and rates that we have to keep in mind, right? So most of us were told, hey, take this much long-lasting insulin every 24 hours and take this many units of insulin per X amount of carbs. So it kind of averages out to a certain amount of insulin per meal, right? And then from there, they give us these ideas of like, okay, maybe if your blood sugars are running higher more often than not, we should increase one of those two variables. Oh, you're going low all the time, we should decrease one of those two variables. And over the course of time, I realized there is nothing that is set in concrete with diabetes. It's a dynamic equation that is ever flowing and fluctuating based on a few different key components in our lifestyle. And with those different choices that we make, different types of foods that we eat, or activity levels, or stress levels at work, sleeping schedules, circadian rhythm getting thrown off. These are all things that can impact our insulin sensitivity. And that at the core is one of the big variables we're going to talk about. Okay. So with your diabetes equation, first type of math that we all learned growing up, or we should have learned, is just the simple addition and subtraction, right? Johnny has 2 apples. Sally gave Johnny 1 apple. How many apples does Johnny have now? 3, right? Because 2 plus 1 is 3. Basic math, easy stuff. And then you start getting into the more complicated stuff. You get long division. Oof. I remember trying to learn that one. That was a tricky one. But then after the course of, multiple years learning different math subjects and getting used to it, they throw a curveball at you and go, hey, welcome to algebra. There's letters in math now. And you're like, but I thought math was just numbers, right? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the letters really threw me off. Like that was a difficult concept for me to grab because for me, it was just black and white, numbers and letters. Like those are two different topics, right? And now all of a sudden you got numbers mixed with letters and letters that are either not connected to the actual number or like 4A equals B. You're like, what? And like solve for A. And you're like, A stuck to the 4 though. How do you solve for that? And so unfortunately, but also fortunately, now that we know what it looks like, this is diabetes, right? The first topic of conversation is how much insulin do I take for my meals, right? Getting that dialed in, your insulin to carb ratio, your long acting or your basal insulins, how much do I take with that? That's the simple addition and subtraction. That's the first introduction to blood sugar management, right? How do we keep blood sugars from going up to 400? How do we keep them from going to 40? Okay, we want to keep them in that range of 70 to 180 as much as possible. Of course, time and range is a new discussion entirely, but that's the first step is understanding the more insulin I take, the lower my blood sugars go. The less insulin I take, the higher my blood sugars go. And it's this relationship that we're learning about. It's basic math, right? Now, a lot of people either get stuck in that stage because their medical teams aren't teaching them new things, or sometimes they're just not even aware of it, unfortunately. Or other times people choose to remain in that stuck place because they don't want to learn. They want to remain ignorant. And for a long time, that was me. I didn't want to learn about all the complicated pieces of diabetes. I just wanted to take my insulin and go about my way, right? I didn't want to worry about it. The issue with that, though, is that if you're ignorant to what diabetes can do, it'll catch you off guard. It'll catch you by surprise, right? And there were a lot of instances where that happened to me. Numerous times where I'd check my blood sugars and they'd be, hitting 300 plus. And I'm like, that's not good, right? And I have to take more insulin and fix it. But even more situations, because I was an active person going on adventures, traveling the world, I was a collegiate athlete, more of those situations where I would have a low blood sugar catch me by surprise, right? And that's where it gets real tricky because that's just forces you to pump the brakes, right? It puts you in a position where you have to stop whatever it is you're doing and give diabetes the attention it deserves because those low blood sugars can really halt anything and everything else that's going on. So when looking at diabetes as an equation, yes, you can get by just understanding the basic diabetes math. But if you're ready and willing to open up your mind to the more advanced diabetes math, it's going to open up a lot more possibilities with the types of things you can calculate, right? Once you start understanding word problems and the letters that are mixed in with the numbers, with the math equations and algebra, right? Then it opens up the realm of statistics and calculus and all those fun things. You can get as complicated as you want, but really understanding how they're all connected is going to allow you to start solving life's problems in different ways and having new perspectives on life itself, right? So with diabetes and understanding the more advanced side of diabetes math, one single concept that I want to introduce to you guys today is this concept called timelines. Now, if you've been through any of our programs, you've heard me geek out about this. It's one of my favorite things because timelines changed my entire view of diabetes management and how I control my blood sugars. It made it a lot simpler. And I can't go too deep into this topic because it's deep. It would take a long time to really fully vet out all of the answers. And I know that there'd be a lot of questions that popped up. We'd be here for hours. And that's welcomed. I love answering questions, but I know not everybody wants to sit here through multiple hours of training. So the quick idea is that each of the variables in our diabetes math equations has its own connected timeline. In other words, what is the action potential of insulin once dosed, right? How long does it remain active and in circulation? When does it stop working? And that question it has its own multiple answers throughout because different types of insulins have different timelines attributed to them, right? If you have something like Afrezza, which is an inhalable insulin. It acts really fast, but it also stops working faster. So it's quick in, quick out, right? Same with the other ultra fast acting insulins like Fiasp. As you get into more standard like Humalog, Novolog, they've got a little bit of a longer time till they're active, but they also last a lot longer, right? So more helpful for maybe fats and proteins that are mixed in with carbohydrates. Then you get into the longer acting insulins that are meant for more 2 to 4 hours of peak action time. Those are great for the low to no carb meals where it's mostly proteins and fats, right? And there's a lot of different combinations and mixtures, but if you can understand the timelines of the insulins, you know how long to pre-bolus, you know how long to wait between meals, you know when you're at risk of seeing a big drop in blood sugars. It opens up a lot more opportunity for you to understand why your blood sugars are doing what they're doing, right? But what I want to give you is an idea of the timelines that I use to map out my day, right? So today, as I mentioned earlier, I went to the dentist, and it's something I do once every. You're supposed to go once every 6 months. It's probably like 8 to 10 months for me because I'll set an appointment and then book over it because it's like not that important to me, even though it should be. And then I'll have to rebook, and it's like, oh, it's been 10 months. You need to come in. I'm like, all right, it's time to go in. Let's do it. And it's important too, right? Like, you gotta have a nice smile. So you go to the dentist, you get them clean teeth up. But with that, like I said in the beginning, one of my fears early on in my diagnosis was that I would go low while at the dentist. And while now I have significantly tighter control over my blood sugars, we have the ability to predict where blood sugars are going to go with, the 80-20 blood sugar formula that I talk about all the time. That's what I use to keep my blood sugar stable. But also, I want to mitigate risk. I want to reduce any chance or likelihood that that's possibly going to impact my blood sugars and cause a less than ideal situation, right? So as a result, I'm going to look at my timeline of insulin activity. Now, for me, I'm looking at where is any drop that could happen going to happen, and how do I make sure that's outside of the window of the dentist, right? And we call this the landing zone. Coming in for a smooth landing, if I can map out where the dentist appointment starts, which for me was just after lunch, do I want to go have a giant meal 5 minutes before I go into the dentist? Probably not if I can avoid it, right? Reason being is one of two things is probably going to happen. One, I'm not going to have time to pre-bolus because it's 5 minutes, right? And my blood sugars are going to skyrocket. And because I'm stuck in a chair for the next 30 minutes, they're going to continue skyrocketing and leave me to feeling nauseous and uncomfortable and feeling sick, right? I don't want that. Now, the other possibility within that realm is that I push it the other direction in avoidance of a high blood sugar, whether it's through fear or avoidance or whatever I want to get out of that. A lot of people have different reasons for avoiding high blood sugars, and I push it low. And then of course during the dental appointment, I would have to drink juice or eat candy, and then it kind of defeats the purpose of getting your teeth cleaned. If you have to introduce sugar in the middle of the cleaning, it doesn't work out great, right? So for me, I want to give myself a buffer to where I'm not worried about the ups and downs. Now, this doesn't have to be a 5 or a 6 hour buffer. A lot of the new algorithms will talk about having a 5-hour active lifespan of the insulin. They call it active insulin on board, right? And like Control-IQ, for example, has a default setting of 5 hours. And one of the reasons for this is they want you to be safe, right? If Control-IQ is going to be pushing new insulin into your system, they want to make sure that there's no old insulin left over, right? That it is giving the proper amount. So they give you an extra couple hours there to make sure it's out of your system. But it's also my opinion, and my opinion means nothing, but that they want to avoid being sued, right? Because if they set that at a shorter duration, maybe there's still some insulin in circulation and the pump gave you more, then you'd have a likely low blood sugar coming on. You'd sue them, they'd get in trouble. They don't want that. So they make sure it's extra long. They set it 5 hours as the default. But understanding where those blood sugars are going to go up and down is going to help you understand where to put the lunchtime so you can go into a dental appointment without having the worry. And this is the same thing for going for workouts, for running errands, for, playing a soccer game, going for a walk around Disneyland. Like if you understand where the red zone, the yellow zone, and the green zone, as far as your action potential for insulin, it's going to help you to keep things in line or to know when to take more aggressive measures for treating lows or treating highs. So timelines ultimately help us to understand, when do I take the extra correction if my blood sugars are going high? When is it safe to take that correction? At what point should I start treating my low blood sugar? And how aggressively should I treat that? Right? If I know my timelines and I know that my blood sugars are going to continue dropping for another hour, I'm probably going to treat it more aggressively and have a full juice box versus having just a single glucose tablet, right? But if it were later on in the timeline when there's not a whole lot of insulin on board left over, I might just treat it with one glucose tablet and call it a day because I'm probably going to be fine. Does this make sense so far? I want to make sure I'm not just talking, above the clouds. I want to make sure you guys are getting it. Drop a yes if this is making sense while I grab some water. I see someone just liked. Oh, a bunch of people liked it. Awesome. Why don't we do that? Make sure everyone's in here. I want people to know about timelines because this process alone changed how I manage my diabetes. So smash the like button or respond, react, whatever they're called with the emojis, and just drop those likes so that people know to come watch this. That tells Facebook this is a good one, and then it'll notify people. So do that real quick for me. Smash that like button. All right, Bill says yes. Barbara says yes. Jason says yes. Gail says yes. Steve says Toronto. Love it. All right, cool. So making sense. So the timelines are going to help us to understand when to treat, when to correct, when I'm in a red zone, yellow zone, or green zone. And I'm going to have to do a whole training on that. That alone, I'm going to put that in the newsletter, actually. That's a whole topic I want to make sure I really just get into the details with. Steve says yes. Barbara says smiley face. Love it. So understanding how these timelines are going to map out your day gives you an idea of your diabetes management from the 30,000 foot view, right? You're kind of looking down like, where do I need to, right there, glucose tablet. All right, we're good, right? Versus waiting until it becomes an actual low that is debilitating and stops everything in its tracks, right? So going to the dentist, because I knew what my timelines looked like, I knew when I could have my lunch so that by the time I get to the dentist appointment, there was zero chance. I said small, zero. There was zero chance that I was going to go low, that I was going to go high. I stayed right nicely in range, and I was able to exit, clean teeth, didn't have to worry about chugging a juice box in the middle of it, right? But understanding your diabetes math boils down to how these things interact. The timelines we can add as a letter variable, like we were talking about earlier with, algebra. As we start to build out these different math equations, diabetes becomes a lot more simple and straightforward. See, diabetes follows rules. I know it doesn't feel like it. I know it does not feel like it initially. A lot of us have been on the blood sugar roller coaster, right? It's not a fun thing to be on. It feels mysterious. It feels like it's just fluctuating and going up and down for no reason whatsoever. But the reality is there is a reason. There is a cause for every effect, right? That's how this thing works. The issue is that if we don't know what's causing it, we're never going to be able to find the solution. And in this case, the solution comes as a result of doing the work in the diabetes math equation, right? So if you're able to do the equation, figure out the word problem that is living with diabetes, you find the solution, you know how to plan or how to react, right? And this comes down to a proactive versus reactive approach. But I don't want to get too deep off topic because I can take this thing into 10 different directions, you guys. I don't think you understand. I could talk on this stuff for days. Like, it is so fun for me to geek out on this. But if I could pass one piece of knowledge to you today, it is to start paying attention to your timelines. When do I go low? When do I go high? How is that going to interest me in relation to other aspects? Did I go low after I walked 15 miles, right? Oh, interesting. That is something I should make a note of. Did I go high at 4 o'clock in the morning? We talked about dawn phenomenon not too long ago. Did a Facebook live training on that as well. See, these are things that we have to keep an eye on. And over time, you'll either start to notice patterns, which is where you can start attributing these timelines to. Say, oh, interesting. If I go for a walk 5 minutes after I dose insulin, it's a nightmare, right? I go low every single time. What can I adjust? What other timelines are impacted by this? And overall, what you're going to start seeing is that these timelines get stacked on top of each other. There's 50 variables that impact blood sugars. And if we can start to nail down a few of them, not all 50, but a few of them, you can start building out these little diabetes math equations throughout your management, which means what? You can start to automate it. That's where it gets fun. That's where it gets thrilling, because you know what? If you can get to a place where you don't have to think about your diabetes, you just check in, a couple times a day when it's time to dose some insulin and eat food, game over. That's the goal, right? Feeling normal, not having to worry about the what ifs of blood sugars. That is what for me was freeing. That's what for me led into quality of life again. Not having to prick my finger every 5 minutes out of fear of what was going to happen, right? Now, I want you to understand that this is not an easy fix. This is the hard phase, doing the work initially, right? But we talked about this on a coaching call. I think it was last night, actually, with my higher end type 1 diabetes clients. We always have these coaching calls multiple times a week they can attend. And we talked about how doing hard things yields an easier life. Doing the easier things yields a harder life. In other words, if you put the work in now, it's going to give you an easier life in the long run, right? If you figure out diabetes, you won't have to worry as much about complications or lows or the uncertainty surrounding diabetes. But if you choose the easy life now, which is guessing how much insulin to give, not really paying attention to the patterns, not looking into these timeline things that Matt's talking about, well, that's fine. You'll probably get by, but long term, life's going to be harder, right? Because you're going to have those uncertain days where it's like, whoa, that 35 blood sugar caught me off guard. That sucked, right? Oh my gosh, my A1C went up. I wonder why, right? I don't know. I haven't been paying attention. So if you're able to just really make this a priority and do the hard work now, life gets easier. And that's my goal. That's been my goal this entire time, is to put the work in up front so that I can get to a place where I know all these different diabetes math equations that essentially automate the bulk of my diabetes, right? And is that something that interests anybody else in here? Type the word automate if that interests you. Granted, it takes work up front. Like if you're willing to put the work in, automation for me was the end goal. Like if I'm doing the work, I want a reward, right? But if that's interesting to some people, type the word automate. And if you're like, no, I don't really care about that, then I guess type hard, because that's how life's going to be. If you don't really care about getting it figured out. So we got Barbara says automate. Who is this? Oh, Gail says automate. Bill says automate. Shibe says automate. Jason says automate. Okay, cool. I want to make sure I'm talking to my crew, people who are like, yeah, let's learn, right? So big concept here, big picture, figure out your timelines. Best way to do that is to track your patterns. Look for your trends, right? If you don't have the trending health journal yet, that's one option, okay? You don't have to get it, but that is one option that's going to help you identify your trends. You can also write down notes on a napkin. You can also take screenshots on your phone of your CGM and figure out what went wrong, what went right? But you got to get curious. And if you can understand timelines, this is one of the bigger pieces of the puzzle to understand, when does insulin start working? When does it stop working? When do I have to start taking extra insulin or less insulin if I'm going to be active, or stack on proteins and fats for my meal, right? Like these are the things that you're going to start snowballing into and get better understanding as you move forward. But you can't just dump all of the information on day one. You're not going to absorb it all. It's overwhelming, right? But if you can start building foundational pieces day after day after day, that's when you start to get the big results, right? It's the small, consistent progress that we're after. We're not after overnight fixes, because they don't exist. And if they do exist, they're not long-term strategies, right? Oh, take this pill and your blood sugars will be fixed. I guarantee you that doesn't work long-term. If it were a thing. So big picture is that small, consistent progress is what we're after. Take one small step every single day. And in a year, you won't recognize who you were and who you are, who you've become. It's an incredible process to go through. So you got more people. Steve says automate. Awesome. So what I want you to think about is, where in my diabetes management is there uncertainty? Like, where do I feel like there's a math equation there, but I just don't know what the letters and numbers stand for and how to solve for X, right? If I don't know what to solve for, I won't ever find the solution. So find an area in your day, in your night, in your work schedule, in your vacation, wherever. Look for those quote unquote problem areas and start getting curious. What led into that? What's the timeline look like? How can I start making adjustments? All right. And remember that small adjustments are key. You don't want to be making massive, aggressive adjustments because we're playing with insulin here. Like, this is a pretty sketchy thing if you don't know what you're doing, right? You have to be cautious. And if you have the ability to connect with your medical team, if you don't have anyone you trust for that, feel free to connect with us. We can offer guidance, though I'm not going to tell you how much insulin to take. I can show you the proper way to think about it and work your way through it. Right? There are calculations that we actually teach our clients for these things. All right. And then, of course, timelines, diabetes math, the bridge between diabetes math and your mind, the way that you make decisions, the habits that we've built up over the years for diabetes management that might not be serving us properly, right? Things that we're doing that we just do automatically and don't think about anymore. A lot of these things are killing your time in range, are killing your A1C. And all you got to do is take a quick little tweak and it'll fix, like, I mean, probably 80% of your problems. Usually it's a pretty quick fix for these things. So that's actually what I'm going to be talking about, is that red light, yellow light, green light timeline section. I'm going to be going over diabetes math and, of course, over that mindset piece as well to fix the habits in this next month's Renegade Warriors newsletter. I mean, we're at the end of the month right now. It's actually shipping out in a couple days, but it's not too late to grab your copy if you haven't signed up for that yet. But just out of curiosity, how many Renegade Warriors do we have here? Go ahead and type the word Renegade if you made it to the end of this training. I know quite a few already probably took off. So like, oh yeah, we know this stuff. But if you're in the newsletter, type the word Renegade. I want to see that. And if you're not in the newsletter, but you're like, wait, I want to learn about timelines and having certainty behind my blood sugars, that sounds amazing. I want to figure out how to start automating parts of my diabetes. I want you to type the word newsletter in the chat. Oh, we got a bunch of Renegades. Okay, I see 2 came already through. Love it. Gail says Renegade. Barbara says Renegade. If you have not already signed up for the newsletter, it's a physical newsletter we ship to you. Oh, I have one right here. This August? It is. Look, there's August's newsletter. It's like 22 pages or something of just gold nuggets. If you haven't gotten that yet, you can go sign up for it. But what we'll do is, we got someone already. Cool. Bill says newsletter. Type the word newsletter. Just follow Bill. He's a good leader in the chat. And if you type the word newsletter, I'll reach out. I'll get you some more info on that and make sure we get you on the list before we ship out the next round of those. Because once they get shipped, they're gone forever. You can't get them. So if you want to know how to automate parts of your blood sugars, this is the issue you're going to want to sign up for. Do not miss it. All right. So I hope this was useful. I got to go, I don't know, test out my new clean teeth, sink them into some snacks. I hope you found this one helpful, though. Love hanging out with you guys on here. See, we got a couple people that were international as well. Saw Toronto. That's fun. So drop the word newsletter if you want more info on that before we ship them out. And I'll see you guys in the next week's training every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Have an amazing, amazing rest of your day. And as always, keep up the fight. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.